Good afternoon, Rabbi.
Good afternoon, Joe.
Today happens to be the day that Richard Branson is attempting to fly into space with five of his friends or coworkers or random strangers, I forget which. Everybody is angling for a seat on one of these space flights. And in fact, I tried to do a Kickstarter campaign to get them to send me to the International Space Station, but nobody thought a $9 million Kickstarter campaign had much of a chance of going.
Oh,
I
my,
know
my condolences. I'm sorry.
I thought there were enough people wanted me off the planet to make it viable, but no, it didn't happen. So I know we've talked about space travel before, and you have a different opinion than I upon the necessity of research in the outer atmosphere and planets beyond. How do you feel about all this, all these headlines today?
I think I love defocusing. Nothing makes me happier than to watch a planet that's going down the tubes with global warming, with climate change, with lack of water, with the heat dome. Nothing makes me happier than ignoring what's happening outside the window and defocusing by looking on space travel. It just renews my faith in human nature, that human nature will do anything it can in order to avoid what is, to the point of utter absurdity and even allowing its own destruction. We have some serious problems. I was looking at the paper this morning about the lakes and reservoirs all over the West. And they're talking about rationing water. They're talking about some very serious forest fires and our inability to stop them. We're talking about very serious heat. Do you know, it was hotter in northern Finland than it was in Miami Beach. Something isn't right. But why focus? A building collapsed in Florida because people were too greedy and didn't want to put money into maintaining it or doing, oh, I'm out for me. I'm out. But nothing warms the cockles, whatever a cockle is, of my heart than defocusing. And sending people into space is the ultimate defocusing. How many millions of dollars were spent that could have been spent on water purification, on renewable energy, on addressing homelessness? The list goes on. However, human beings, we're going to go for the defocus, for the glamorous. How much do we hear about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and they're wiping out malaria, among other things that they're doing with their money? Very little. It's not glamorous. It's not defocusing. In fact, it's just the opposite. It calls our attention to our present situation. And we can bring it also back to COVID. I just read this morning, 100% of the cases in the hospital are unvaccinated people. 100%. 100% of those who are dying are unvaccinated. How much more evidence do we need that we need to get vaccinated? And we have again, the list is endless. And it's one thing to have entertainment, to watch Netflix or watch Apple TV Plus or watch Discovery, whatever we subscribe to. It's neat if we see it as a diversion. But if we see it as a way to totally defocus from what's going on, then we have a problem. So that I want to emphasize that. There's nothing wrong with going to the movies. There's nothing wrong with reading. There's nothing wrong with any form of escapism, as long as we come back to dealing with what is. And our problems are growing exponentially. And so we look for diversion in bigger and grander things. You know, when I was a kid, you used to go to an air-conditioned movie theater. That was the big thing. Now we're watching space exploration, space shuttle, people going into space as a way of defocusing or forgetting about life for a while. But it's not for a while. We've run the danger, Joe, of now we are totally living in augmented reality. We're looking for more ways to escape from what is, and what is gets worse because we're escaping from it, rather than saying, hold on, we can solve this, we can address this, it's priorities. So what resources are being used to go to space, which could be used for what we're confronting, what we're dealing with here and now. And I believe that's the trouble, and that's my problem with space travel and exploration.
But isn't that the classic argument between engineering and science? That engineers find practical applications, but science should be allowed to develop purely for its own sake without a material goal in mind, per se.
Doesn't stop Bell Laboratories, doesn't stop scientists from exploring science. But what we're talking about space travel is engineering. We're talking about taking science and using the resources to make something. And we do have enough. We could use the expertise, we could use the money, we could use the people to make life better for all of us. But I think this is human nature. We just don't like what is. And when provided with the opportunity not to deal with what is, we jump on it. And again, as human beings, we have to restrain that influence. We have to say, yes, this is glamorous, this is exciting, and it's not helpful for the mass numbers of people on our planet. How many human beings have no access to clean water? The money spent on one flight into space could solve the clean water problem for everyone. So I have a very simple solution. Let's make a list of what's going on. And once we're dealing with that, then let's go into space. Let's start using but let's start with, and Joe, the same thing happens many times with families, with partners, with children. We neglect our own families and we don't do what's necessary for personal relationships because we're seeking the big payoff, or we're looking for Hollywood, whatever it might be, and our families suffer. So it's not just on a grand scale, it's on a local scale that we defocus. I'm looking for the big thing. I'm going to go to the drugstore and I'm going to be discovered. And that's going to solve all the problems in the universe. Just doesn't happen.
I still think we need space travel, Rabbi. Otherwise, how would you get the Jewish space laser out there?
Well, it's not just a matter of it's already out there, Joe. And I just want my listeners to know, and here are my creds. I have my creds right here. I am an official with the space laser. So if there's anyone you would like to point it at, if you'd like to talk with me, please get in touch with me. And as with any good space laser, we can control, and it's ridiculous. We're not starting forest fires. That's a waste of time. But for a small or large sum of money, I can arrange to have the space laser pointed wherever you might like it pointed.
Okay, I'm going to start building little hats with circles on them, targets, and handing them out to people I particularly want you to pay attention to. But thank you very much, Rabbi. As always, it's entertaining, illuminating, and your opinion is well targeted.
Thank you. That's my goal. Good afternoon, Joe.